This is a story. We'll go back to my days of my cadetships in the 1965 to 1969. I was cadets in the Ben Line Company, which had about 25 ships, all general cargo ships, and they used to run from Europe and Britain to the Far East with manufactured goods, and they used to bring back timber, rice, anything from the Far East. So in these days, the captains, well, and the senior officers were all, put it mildly, bastards, absolute bastards. And they seemed to enjoy being bastards. And of course, cadets were the lowest of the low. As I said before, they were considered lower than the ship's cat. I mean, even the deck boy or the galley boys were treated with more respect than the cadets. So I put up with this for nearly 4 years, and I didn't like it, but I had to. I had no option but to put up with this. So, but I got my own back quite a few times on with them. But one of the more memorable occasions was we were coming back from a trip to the Far East. The trip was usually about 4 months, and we were coming back from the Far East, and we were only about 3 days out from London, where we would go into London, and the superintendent would come, and all the big wigs, and the captain would give his report. And the captain was a bastard. His name was Lumsden, and he particularly disliked me. There's usually 2 or even 3 cadets on board, but he didn't like me at all. So I got into the galley, and I stole some fish, fresh fish. And this was about 3 days before London. And I got some tape, and luckily there was a bit of fog, and I knew he'd have to be up the bridge. So I went into his day room, and nobody's watching. Lucky I wasn't caught. And I went to his coffee table in the middle of his day room, and I taped this fish underneath the coffee table. And it was all right 1 day, 2 days, and after the 3rd day, the stench was incredible. It was dreadful. And it was all down the alleyways. The whole of that, captain's deck was stinking. And he was beside himself with fury. He had all the stewards up, the second steward and the 2 assistant stewards, finding what the hell it was coming from. And nobody, not one of them, thought to look under the table. They searched everywhere else, but they didn't look under the table. So the ship carried on. It got up to the Thames, and the pilot came on board, and this, meanwhile, the captain had just sealed off the whole of his bloody thingy, and he just couldn't go into his cabin. So when the superintendent came on board, they had to take him away to the bridge and give him coffee and talk on the bridge because of the stench down below. So that was one of the times that I got it on back. And there was another trip. I think this one was on the Ben Vorlich, and we had another bastard of a captain, and he didn't like me one little bit either. So I got him a really good one because I put marbles in his blower system, and put them in when the boat wasn't rolling. I got into his cabin. I put it into where the blowers come out. The ducts go along, transversely the ducts, and blow the fresh air into the blowers. And it was all very well when the ship wasn't rolling, but when the ship started to roll, these marbles would go crashing backwards and forwards. And he was beside himself with fury because I'm sure he knew it was me, but he had no proof. And he was furious. And he got the engineers up. They dismantled the whole system to get these marbles out. And luckily, nobody knew I had any marbles. Otherwise, I would have definitely been a suspect. But that was another good time. I got my one back. So there we are. There's 2 paybacks. There we go.